We're just a few months out from the next general election and political parties are beginning to show their hands, including slogans that they feel will provide the right messaging heading into the big day. Has Te Pāti Maori tested the government's commitment to Maori, and are they seen as a possible future alliance? And how about the Green Party's new policy to restore Maori control over Maori land? Is the government in support? We caught up with the Prime Minister earlier today and began by asking for his thoughts around the Labour Party slogan.
Now, the campaign's really starting to kick off in earnest now. We're about 88 days away from the general election, and, there's a bit of enthusiasm starting to bubble around that. That's a good thing. It's good to see people starting to engage with the democratic process. Ultimately, Labor's campaign is going to be about, backing New Zealanders who are working hard to get ahead. That's why I'm here. That's ultimately the thing that drives me in politics. I want people to have opportunity to make a better life for themselves and for their families. That's why I'm in politics. I'm in it for them. And so I want our campaign to ultimately be about that. So, people obsess about slogans, but ultimately it's the vibe of the campaign, I guess, that it really helps to define. And I hope the vibe of our campaign, when New Zealanders see it, will be that, I'm very much focused on helping them to get ahead.
As a long-serving politician, do you find this time as challenging, exciting, a combination of both, stressful?
I think probably the last few months have been a bit challenging in the sense that when you're the government, you still have to keep governing, even when everyone else is sort of heading the campaign trail. You've still got governing work that you need to do. As we get closer to the election campaign, I guess I'm looking forward to being able to get out there and campaign. I've still got a bit of time now over the next 6 or 7 weeks where we still have some governing to do. So we've still got to run the country. Then once Parliament finishes for the election, that'll be towards the end of August, then we can really be on the campaign trail. We can really be focused on getting out there and speaking to voters. So I'm actually really looking forward to that because it will almost be like the shackles come off a little bit and we can actually, get out there and campaign.
Now, Prime Minister, you've been accused of playing it safe, being a little cautious heading into the October election, especially after yesterday's post-cabinet press conference. Do you feel that these are fair characterisations around who you are as the leader of our country and where the government is currently?
I hope New Zealanders will see me as a responsible leader, as someone who thinks carefully about the decisions that government can take, and who is actually focused on making changes in a way that brings people along for the journey, rather than imposing changes on people that they didn't see coming, that they weren't expecting, and perhaps that they don't support. So I've been very much focused on trying to build consensus in my role as Prime Minister, trying to be predictable and stable in the decisions that the government's taking, because I actually think that that's what good responsible government is about.
Well, according to the Talbot Mills corporate polls last month, Labour had slumped down 5 points to 31%, 5 below national. We always hear from political parties that polls aren't always accurate, well, until their party is polling high. What's your feeling about these results only a few months out from a general election? Were you expecting a more positive outcome at this point, or are you OK with the current polling?
Now, ultimately, I think what every politician will agree on is there's actually only one poll that really matters, and that's the poll that happens at the general election. But ultimately, polls do give an indication of the public mood and whether they are happy with what you're doing or unhappy with what you're doing. And there's no doubt that at the moment, New Zealanders perhaps in the last month or so haven't seen us focused on the issues that they want to see us focused on. So we know now that, cost of living is really front and centre for a lot of Kiwi families. In some parts of the community, crime and law and order are really front and centre for them. So community safety is a concern. They haven't seen us focused on that in the last little while. They've seen too many distractions, and I think that that's reflected in the polling. So my message to them really is, we hear that. We'll sharpen our act up. We'll be absolutely focused on the issues that you want us to be focused on. That's why I'm here, as I've said. We are in this for them. And, I think we need to demonstrate that some more.
Now, Te Pāti Maori demands seem to have tested your commitment to Maori a little. They're still being billed as the kingmaker for a coalition government. Are you comfortable with this currently and potentially future alliance?
Ultimately, the nature of MMP means that you work with whatever parties the voters choose for you to work with. That's the nature of an MMP democracy. Can we work with the Maori Party? Can we work with the Green Party? We've got a track record of having worked with the Green Party very closely. There are areas where we've cooperated with the Maori Party in the current term of Parliament. Do I find some of their positions a bit more radical than I'm comfortable with? Yes, of course I do. Do I, where ultimately will all of this lead? Well, ultimately that's going to be up to the voters.
The Maori Party is backing Maori landowners who are seeking support from the United Nations to stop changes to the emissions trading scheme that penalise them. This includes commercial forests being cut out of the scheme. Is there still room for negotiation? Are you still willing to consider this option?
Ultimately, the courts have made a ruling, and I accept the ruling that the courts have made. I also wouldn't suggest that Māori are all of one mind on this. The implications for Māori forestry owners aren't universal, and there are some Māori forestry owners who won't agree with the approach that they're taking. So, ultimately, we've got a process to work through these things. The courts have made a ruling, and I accept the ruling that the courts have made.
Now, you would have heard yesterday that a key election platform for the Green Party is the return of stolen Māori land, along with legislation to restore Māori control over Māori land. What are some of the fundamental issues you see in their new policy, or are you on board with this?
We ultimately believe that the treaty settlement process is a full and final settlement. Terrible things were happened. Land was taken unacceptably, and many decades, even centuries on, we've still got a responsibility to right the wrongs of the past. That is what the treaty settlement process is designed to do. When iwi have entered into their treaty settlements, they have been on the basis that they are full and final settlements, and I don't intend to reopen that. I don't think that would be fair on the iwi who have settled. I think it's important that we continue to negotiate and to work through the process with those iwi who haven't settled.
All right. Now, just before you go, Prime Minister, the FIFA Women's World Cup is officially beginning this Thursday at Eden Park, followed by the first game between our football ferns and Norway. You met with the ferns recently. What did you have to say?
I told them that New Zealanders are right behind them. We're really excited to be hosting this tournament. We're really looking forward to the games. I think our football ferns are an inspiration for women and girls who are into sport everywhere up and down the country. I know that, we were all really excited to see kick-off on Thursday. And I know that we're going to have, the whole country's going to be following the tournament.
And the eyes of the world are going to be on us, so we have to do a good job. Prime Minister of New Zealand, Chris Hipkins, appreciate you joining us today. Kia hau maru, stay safe.
Kia ora, thanks, Neil.